Legendary Iron Maiden frontman Bruce Dickinson is calling out U2 over their very high concert ticket prices and talking about some issues he has with the music industry. He's obviously one of the legends of the game. He has a very unique insight on why things are the way they are, and I was really impressed by what he had to say. I wonder what you think about this. Of course, he's talking about U2 at the Sphere. Tickets were over $1,000. What do you think of that? I understand the Sphere is a very expensive facility and all of that, but also, who are affording these tickets? Your everyday fans. Most of them are not going to be able to afford to spend that on one night of entertainment. Now, Bruce Dickinson, some people love him, some people hate him in the music world. He has certainly rubbed some people the wrong way because he has that sort of no bullshit kind of attitude. He's going to say what he thinks, and at times that's put him at odds with other major figures in the genre, namely Ozzy Osbourne. The Osbournes and Bruce Dickinson have had some very high-profile run-ins with each other where Ozzy Osbourne has spoken and said essentially that he doesn't feel like he's a very nice man. This is what Sharon and Ozzy said in an interview from just a couple of years ago. It says Sharon Osbourne is still no fan of Bruce Dickinson, roughly 17 years after a feud between Team Osbourne and the Iron Maiden singer manifested itself in an infamous incident at Ozfest, and it's infamous to say the least. What went down was at Ozfest, apparently Dickinson and the Osbournes weren't getting along throughout a tour a long time ago. And essentially what ended up happening around 2006 was at the final performance in California, when Iron Maiden was set to perform, they had issues with their sound going out and people were in the crowd throwing things at them on stage, which Sharon later revealed that she organized a group of people to go into the crowd and throw shit at Bruce Dickinson. This is more. It says the band's power was cut off and they were pelted by eggs by a certain faction of the audience. It turned out that Sharon had spearheaded the revolt against the legendary metal act. She took the stage herself to say that Dickinson had disrespected Ozzy Osbourne and the festival throughout the tour. An official statement from Sharon later read, from day one, Bruce Dickinson started berating Ozzy and belittling the Ozfest audience. He stated he didn't need a reality show to give him credibility. We're not just some effing reunion band, and continuously complained about the sound system, saying that when he comes back to America, he'll have a better one. Now, Sharon went on to add that she had no issues with anyone else associated with the camp. She said the rest of the band are gentlemen and have a great professional attitude. The crew's absolutely great, but how sad it was after 10 years for Ozfest that this little man tried to ruin it for everyone. Consequence later interviewed Ozzy and he said, Bruce Dickinson is a great singer, but as a person, and I've worked with him, he's not very nice, responded Ozzy. And he goes on to say, Ronnie James Dio is no longer alive. He was a great singer. I didn't really know him so well. I'm not one of these guys who says many things about people. The truth is the truth. I met Ronnie James Dio a couple of times. He took my Sabbath gig, but at the same time, I can't complain because I did great on my own. He continues to say, but I don't sing for a judge. I sing for my fans. If my fans don't buy my music, that would tell me my singing isn't good anymore. But they're still buying my records. I'm my own worst critic. I don't rate myself more than Ronnie James Dio or Bruce Dickinson. That's not my gig. I don't care. I have fun doing what I do. My goal is to turn my audience on, and that's what I try to do. I'm not interested if someone thinks I'm an effing joke. That's fine. That's their opinion. They asked Sharon about Dickinson, and she held nothing back. She said, Bruce Dickinson is an effing prick. Well, no, he's not a prick because a prick's nice. He's an effing asshole because the situation was he was on a tour called Ozfest, and Ozzy Osbourne was paying him every night to perform. He accepted the gig. He knew what he was doing. He accepted the gig, and every night he'd go on stage and say bad things about Ozzy, and the crew and everybody in the other bands would be like, are you letting him get away with it? And I'm like, I sure am. But the last gig just outside of LA, and I thought, you MFer, now you're going to get it. And so I had about 20 people in the audience, and a lot of them were nurses from Cedars-Sinai because I had cancer at the time, and they were all my chemo nurses, and they all came down, and they all effing pelted the shit out of him. And my thing is, you play, you pay. And the thing is, if you're being paid to do a gig, but you don't like the person, then F off. But don't stay, take the money, take all the good that's coming through to your band from being on a festival, doing 24 shows, and still slagging the person paying you. It's like, no, that makes you an effing asshole. And he is, and he's never apologized. He never went up and said hello to Ozzy. The thing about him is he's just so jealous and always has been of Ozzy, and that's his problem. So that's Sharon's perspective and Ozzy's perspective, of course. They felt disrespected by him, and they didn't feel like he was very nice. And of course, Bruce Dickinson surely didn't appreciate the fact that there were people in the crowd pelting him with items at the direction of Sharon Osbourne. So it kind of comes out in the wash. Both sides are angry. Both sides feel like they were wronged. But Bruce Dickinson, for sure, has a huge fan base. He's had a remarkable career. He's got millions and millions of fans around the world. So he's doing something right. And one of the things he does is he has this no bullshit kind of attitude. He's going to call things out that he doesn't like. And that's what he's doing in the case of concert tickets. And he singles out U2 for that Sphere concert. He says he doesn't really care about it. And, there's a lot of people you've heard that from where U2 is one of those bands where if you love U2, you love them and you're going to ride for them. But there's also a lot of people who don't necessarily understand the appeal. I love some of U2's music, but at the same time, there's really probably not a situation where I'm going to spend over $1,000 to watch you perform. Whether or not it's in the Sphere, it doesn't make a difference to me. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go to the Sphere, but it's going to be for an artist that I'm interested in. And maybe if it was an artist that I really loved and it was an artist that meant a lot to me, I would spend that kind of money. But even then, I'm not sure that the price point at over $1,000 is something that's going to be sustainable long term. And I bet that maybe with different artists, the prices will be set at different levels. But there does seem to be something about Vegas where the cost for everything for entertainment seems to cost a lot more. And please, if there's anyone from Vegas that lives there, help me understand this, because I've gone to other huge cities that are also music towns that are tourist destinations. For instance, Nashville's not like that. LA's not really like that from the concert ticket perspective, even though it's also a very expensive place. I don't really get it. New York City, also not the case. So what do you all think that is? Please let me know. But here is what Bruce Dickinson had to say about concert tickets and going to see U2. So what's old Bruce saying? He's saying Bruce Dickinson says bands like U2 charge too much for concerts, thinks front row tickets should be more affordable. This according to Ultimate Guitar. This is what he said in conversation with a Spanish music outlet, and he was asked about whether or not he thought that concert tickets growing exponentially, the prices were detrimental to bands and to music. He said, well, two things. One, it depends on what the show is and kind of who the audiences are. I mean, I'm not going to go around and say specific artists, because most of the artists that are charging like $1,200 a ticket, like in Las Vegas, if you want to go and see the U2 show, I think it was $1,200 per seat at the Sphere. I've got no interest in paying $1,200 to go and see U2 in the Sphere. None. $100 maybe, but for me, what's important is to try to keep, on the one hand, the right type of tickets at the right price. So by that, I mean the right type of tickets. I mean, the tickets are that in front of the stage, which everybody says should be the most expensive tickets. Actually, no, they should be the most reasonably priced tickets, because the people who are going to be up there in front of the stage are going to be the people who are real fans, people who are kids, people who can't afford the crazy money, people that need to be down in the front. They're the people that are gonna keep this music alive. And then you get the people that they might be fans, but they want to bring their wife and they don't want to get too hot and sweaty and all the rest of it. So those seats are up at the top or something else like that. What they're going to pick, and those prices happen differently. He went further closing this out. He said, I understand how promoters try to do it and not lose money, because promoters are part of the whole ecosystem. Without promoters, there would be no shows. The promoters have somehow got to get their money back. So it's a delicate balance, but in general, ticket prices have gone through the roof. And some of the ticket prices that people pay, well, some of the prices people pay for me, it's insane. I would never pay that price, but then again, I'm probably not a fan of that particular artist. People who are, maybe they think it's worth it. I mean, certainly with my shows, we've always tried to keep the ticket prices normal boundaries, and the same with Maiden. So some very interesting comments there from Bruce Dickinson, and I entirely agree with what he has to say there. Unfortunately, you do see a lot of real money-hungry type decisions centering around ticket prices and stuff like that, that there's just no justification for it. It's worthy of criticism, and it's outrageous, and I do think $1,200 concert tickets are in that category. I don't care how much the venue costs. This is a show for rich people, by rich people, for rich people, by rich people. It's what it is. Anyone who can afford $1,200 concert tickets, you're rich. And so it's just kind of crazy to me. And I do think it's pretty wild. But at the end of the day, also, people are showing up and they're paying for it and they're able to afford it. So let me know where you all stand with this. But it is kind of frustrating when people are getting priced out of concert tickets, knowing what that's done for me, what that has done, the impact it's had on my life. To imagine that there are people that are not able to get that experience, it frustrates me. So I always appreciate people like Bruce Dickinson who are talking about how important it is to keep prices down. And I believe that he's sincere about that. So it means all the much more. So much respect to him for that. Folks, that's your latest update from Rock Feed. I appreciate you so much tuning in. And so if you're new here, I'd appreciate it if you took a moment, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest news and updates about your favorite musicians.